Welcome to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe my YouTube channel. The PM also doubled down his pledge to put British troops on the ground in Ukraine, despite kickback from other European countries. In a call with Volodymyr Zelensky and other leaders, he said, "Russia does not hold all the cards in this war." It will be seen as another gentle rebuke to Donald Trump, who last week said the Russians have the cards in settlement negotiations. The U.S. president has thrown geopolitics into disarray by initiating peace talks with Russia, while freezing out the Ukrainians and branding Mr. Zelensky a dictator. European allies today rallied round the Ukrainian leader as they marked 3 years since the invasion. Zooming in from No 10, Sir Keir said, "We must keep dialing up the economic pressure to get Putin to a point where he is ready not just to talk, but to make concessions." So today we're announcing the UK's largest package of sanctions since the early days of the war. Going after Russia's shadow fleet, and going after companies in China and elsewhere who are sending military components. Later today I will be discussing further steps with the G7, and I am clear that the G7 should be ready to take on more risk, including on the oil price cap, sanctioning Russia's oil giants, and going after the banks that are enabling the evasion of sanctions. Stressing Britain's unwavering support for Ukraine, the PM added, "Russia does not hold all the cards in this war, because the Ukrainians have the courage to defend their country." He added, "The UK is ready and willing to support this with troops on the ground, with other Europeans, and with the right conditions in place. And ultimately a US backstop will be vital to deter Russia from launching another invasion in just a few years' time." Zelensky has vowed to step down as Ukraine's president in exchange for peace or NATO membership. The shock remarks were made at a press conference this weekend as he emphasized that Ukraine's security was his priority. Zelensky said on Sunday, "If it's about peace in Ukraine and you really want me to leave my position, I am ready to do that, in exchange for peace. Secondly, I can exchange it for NATO membership. If there is such an opportunity, I'll do it immediately without a long conversation about it." Sir Keir Starmer announces new round of Russian sanctions to crank up pressure on Vladimir Putin. In a decisive move aimed at intensifying pressure on the Kremlin, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer today announced a fresh wave of sanctions against Russia. The new measures, unveiled in a high-profile press conference at Downing Street, are designed to force President Vladimir Putin to make significant concessions in ongoing peace negotiations over the Ukraine conflict. And on the prospect of European troops being used as peacemakers in Ukraine, Macron clarified that troops would not be on the front line, but mark a presence in Ukraine as a guarantee. The French leader grimaced after Trump incorrectly suggested European assistance to Ukraine would be in the form of loans. Macron said, "Europe is willing to step up to be a stronger partner, to do more on defense and security on this continent, as well as to be a reliable partner." He added that there is good reason to re-engage with Putin, but being strong and having deterrence capabilities is the only way to ensure an agreement is respected. Macron said that his aim is to try to get something first which can be assessed, checked and verified and ensure that we build sufficient guarantees in the short run. The French president added, "This is where we are ready to be engaged. A lot of my European colleagues are ready to be engaged." As the two leaders have been speaking, Putin said Russia is prepared to discuss the possibility of cutting defense budgets with the US. He proposed cutting spending by 50%, adding that it would be a good idea. Mad Vlad also discussed the war in Ukraine and said Trump looks to improve the political situation, but added that the attempt benefits Ukraine more than it does Russia. He also slammed current European leaders, saying they are committed to the Kyiv regime and cannot shift away from this without receiving backlash. Putin also blamed Zelensky for preventing peace in Ukraine, which the US looks to achieve as quickly as possible. He added that the Ukrainian president had driven himself into a dead end by banning himself from negotiations with Russia. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky has said they hope that we can finish this war this year. Zelensky was speaking at a summit of European leaders, as well as Canadian PM Justin Trudeau, who were in Kyiv to show their support on the 3rd anniversary of the illegal invasion. Speaking at a news conference, the Ukrainian president added that the war had been very difficult on the nation and warned that Ukraine needed security guarantees to prevent Moscow returning. He suggested that an EU and NATO membership would aid this fear. Prior to the news conference, Trump said Russian leader Vladimir Putin would accept European peacekeepers in Ukraine as part of a potential deal to end Russia's war there and that the war could end within weeks. Yeah, he will accept it, Trump said. I have asked him that question. Look, if we do this deal, he's not looking for World War. Trump described the highly anticipated revenue-sharing agreement with Ukraine as very close in answering questions from reporters as he and Macron were pictured laughing in the Oval Office. It looks like we're getting very close, Trump told reporters at the start of his bilateral meeting with Macron.
He added that Volodymyr Zelensky could potentially visit Washington this week or next to sign the deal. Trump, however, did not say whether the imagined deal would include American security guarantees. Europe is going to make sure nothing happens, he said. Upon being asked whether Ukraine should give up territory as part of an agreement, Trump vaguely replied, "We'll see. It's a negotiation that's just starting." The Republican also refused to call his pal Putin a dictator, having previously used the word to describe Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. He said, "I don't use those words lightly, we'll see how it all works out." The pair had started the day participating in a virtual meeting with other leaders of the Group of 7 economies, holding crunch talks about the war. The US president took to his social media platform Truth Social to share how the talks went, adding his conventional brag that the war would have never started if I was president. He said in the post, "Today, President Emmanuel Macron of France joined me in the Oval Office to speak to the G7 summit." The meeting was convened by Governor Justin Trudeau of Canada, the current chair of G7, to acknowledge the 3rd anniversary of the Russia-Ukraine war, which would have never started if I was president. Everyone expressed their goal of seeing the war end, and I emphasized the importance of the vital, critical minerals and rare earths deal between the United States and Ukraine, which we hope will be signed very soon. This deal, which is an economic partnership, will ensure the American people recoup the tens of billions of dollars and military equipment sent to Ukraine, while also helping Ukraine's economy grow as this brutal and savage war comes to an end. The president added that, at the same time, he is in serious discussions with Vladimir Putin regarding the ending of the war, as well as major economic development transactions that will take place between the two countries. He finished the post, "Talks are proceeding very well." It comes after Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and Macron agreed to both discuss showing united leadership in support of Ukraine. Both Starmer and Macron went over Russia's barbaric full-scale invasion, and there were reportedly talks of placing Ukraine in the center of negotiations. Starmer shared his commitment to support Ukraine, and it was said the UK and Europe must be united against Russian aggression. A press release posted on gov.uk revealed more discussions in the US would take place within the coming week. A Downing Street spokesperson said, "The Prime Minister spoke with President Macron this afternoon. They began by discussing the 3rd anniversary of Russia's barbaric full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which is a stark reminder that we must all work together to put Ukraine in the strongest possible